Hey everyone, we're live today on this Wednesday, May 3rd. Sorry, May 13th. I'm 10 days too late. Wednesday, midweek. My brain's already checked out to the weekend. How's everybody doing out there? It's good to see everybody. It's good to be live again. Haven't been live in about a week. So we're going to talk today with Lynchburg City Councilman Chris Faraldi. In the city last night, they had a debate over whether or not to tighten up their abortion clinic ordinance that they put in place this past February, and they wanted to tighten it up. At least Chris did. So we're going to talk to him about what happened in Lynchburg. Be a pleasure to have him on the live stream. He's set to join us here in any minute now. And of course, since we're live, we can recap what's going on, all the craziness in Richmond. As you know, we have Democrats who want to pack the Virginia State Supreme Court as if it's a banana republic. We have an appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court, although I don't know if that's what they thought they were appealing to. The appeal had Virginia Supreme Court written on it, even though it went to the U.S. Supreme Court. And as we know, J. Jones, two-bullet J. Jones, cannot spell Virginia or senator, despite having flown in all of those lawyers to help him out during the April 27th SCOVA argument to uphold that illegal gerrymander. Hello, Middle Peninsula. Thank you for watching. It's my pleasure to be here, and it's my so grateful that you're here supporting us. As you can see, if you care, I'm kind of in the middle of, it's like moving day around our studio here, moving some things around, and it's I don't know, doesn't look 100%, but it looks a little bit better, I think, a little bit cleaner, and helps me be a little bit more organized. So we are moving things around, and it is great to do. Great to do. Hey, fuck your county. Nope. I got something on that, though. I got something on the budget. We are staring down a government shutdown in Virginia, and there is some stirring on that. No word on a budget yet. And as we know, that is the one thing that the Democrats in Richmond don't want to talk about. They want to talk about illegal gerrymanders. They want to talk about abortion. They want to talk about giving paid sick leave to everyone, no matter if they're forcing more people, more private businesses to pay out, and you paying higher taxes to fund this pot of money that's going to go pay for private sick leave for all employees of the state. They want to talk about more, I guess it's carbon taxes. I think it's the carbon feel good credit. You know, you get credits if you buy carbon taxes. They want to talk about that. They want to talk about your energy bill going up because Dominion raising rates on people at least $600 a year. At least if you're a business, you're going to pay thousands of more. And if you're presumably an Appalachian Power customer or wherever you get your power, from whomever you get your power in Virginia, your rates are going up, all under the guise of affordability, though. Remember, the affordability queen. No, they want to talk about all that stuff, but you're right, fuck your county. They do not have a budget yet, and we're going to get into some of that stuff here. So, all right. Faraldi just texted me. He's getting situated. And I'm just going to do a quick rundown. Oh, by the way, if you're not following us on X, we are at Virginia Insider on X, and I'll share my screen so you can see. That's us right there on X. And we're also now on Facebook, too. So if you are on Facebook, you can follow us, facebook.com/Virginia Insider, and posting there. Good to hear from you there. It's also a great way for people to follow us and follow along as well. All right, looks like Faraldi's here. I'm gonna remove this. Let's see. There he is, Chris Faraldi.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear just fine, man.
Wonderful.
Can hear
Wonderful.
you just fine. Hey, listen, we're live today. We've got a few of about 100 of our favorite friends here
Cool.
on the live stream with us, and I certainly appreciate you coming on. Everybody, this is Chris Faraldi. He is the Lynchburg City Councilman, and we were watching. I was watching your meeting that you had last night, and you guys took up your abortion clinic zoning ordinance, and it looks like you didn't get what you wanted last night, but
No.
it is fair to say that Lynchburg is leading the way when it comes to protecting the lives of the unborn, because you have this strict ordinance in place. So thanks for coming on, Virginia Insider. I want to get into all this and talk about what you what you did last night, the discussion there. But first off, how are you, man? It's good to see you.
Good to be seen, and thank you for having me. And it's been good to talk with you, honestly, pretty much since the referendum stuff really got underway. And I want to commend you for the coverage you've been doing and the stuff you've been doing to just raise awareness. That's been really neat to see. And then outside of that, staying busy, trying to make a living, and part-time legislator, I guess, for city council, and just making it happen. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And for those who aren't familiar with Lynchburg, it is the only city in Virginia with that votes Republican, that has a majority Republican council. It's a conservative city. And, for those who may be watching from Northern Virginia or Hampton Roads, maybe thinking, how does that happen? I mean, everywhere you go in the urban areas of Virginia, Democrats control everything. But in Lynchburg, I can attest. I was there about a month ago when Governor Youngkin held the rally with Jason Miyares and John McGuire, Congressman John McGuire. Place is clean. It's nice. The food's great. I think I tweeted you on this. It is, man. It's. I mean, I was really. And it was my first my first real hangout time in Lynchburg there. I've driven through a few times, but it was great. I really enjoyed the experience there.
Well, I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, man. No, you guys are doing a good thing down there. You guys are doing a good thing. And when it comes to this abortion clinic, I guess it's the ordinance. This is really meant to control what types of services. Abortions, basically, let's call it a spade a spade. It's to prevent people from having abortions near churches and schools and public places, because we don't want those near our kids, near our churches, near places of worship. We want to keep that well away from there as much as possible, right?
Well, and that was the original concept. To my colleagues' credit, was really born out of, we see what the Democrats are pushing for, the pro-abortion movement is pushing for in Richmond. We wanted to set some guardrails on, if that amendment passes in November, the one coming up about a supposed constitutional right for an abortion up to and after birth, that we had some regulation on. Hey, okay, so we regulate industries in where they can be and what they do and where and how and all sorts of ways. Why not do it for abortion? So the concept was actually very forward thinking, and I commend it. My hiccup was this. Council actually voted 7-0 to send it to the Planning Commission for review. That's telling, because we do have one Democrat on council, and he was on board with sending the package to the Planning Commission to start the legal process of getting it all worked out. That went through just fine. The Planning Commission couldn't come up with a recommendation, which is also fine, and sent us back information. The problem was, at that point, city staff inserted a little bit of a poison pill, in my view, and what it essentially said is there is an exemption in all cases. There's an exemption for family planning services, but that wasn't defined in the ordinance. So I raised a bit of a stink over that, and saying, well, what's the point of passing this thing if there's an exemption for Planned Parenthood? You're pulling it up right now, and candidly, what we learned last night is there's still some holes in it, and there's still some more work to do. But in large concept, I'm proud that I tried to fix it. It didn't go our way. That's all right. we'll keep on pressing on and moving forward. But Lynchburg is leading on a variety of issues, whether it's uh, cooperating with federal law enforcement. What a concept. All of them.
And we did some coverage of that
you
because
did.
right as Spanberger came in, the first thing she did was say, "Hey, you know what? Wouldn't it be wise if we stopped the federal enforcement of illegal alien criminal immigrants that are in here raping and murdering people in Virginia? Wouldn't it be wise if we just prevented them from trying to get the bad guys out of here?" And you guys took up immediately your partnership with ICE. And for those who may not be aware, for many years, dating back to when George W. Bush was president, there was this thing called 287G. And what that did was it allowed jurisdictions to partner with federal law enforcement when an illegal alien was arrested and brought to the jail. They were checked at the jail, their immigration status, and if in fact they were there illegally, the jail would just call ICE and say, "Hey, come pick this guy up." And they'd walk him out in their handcuffs, take their handcuffs off, put the federal handcuffs on, and that was it.
Yep.
And Spanberger says, "No, we can't do that anymore. That's just too easy. We can't protect our citizens that way." And you guys still have that relationship with ICE.
Yeah, and what we passed was a bit of a variation on that. We did not necessarily pass a 287G. I actually wanted to say, no, let's if we want to take up 287G by itself, that's one thing. I said, let's just make a policy. We're going to cooperate, period. We're going to cooperate with federal law enforcement. And we saw that as a positive, and we passed it. All to say is Lynchburg is leading on a variety of fronts. Fighting back on the referendum, we were the first locality to be right out of the gate and pass a resolution condemning it and saying we'll even take you to court. The 287G thing, the immigration working with customs and law enforcement, nice now as the president has changed it, and even to the Second Amendment sanctuary status. All of these things Lynchburg is leading on. We do have some internal strife, as any local legislative body will have, but in large part, Lynchburg, I do believe, on policy is setting the example on a variety of fronts.
So this, what many people may not know and what many people may not believe is, yes, there is another referendum coming down the pike.
Yeah.
And it is in November. And this has to do with killing babies. It's abortions is what it is. And what the Democrats in Richmond want to do, these Richmond Democrats, they want to codify open abortion up into the late the third trimester, and as our once Governor Northam explained so well on WTOP radio back in 2019, how after a baby is born, you make the baby comfortable, and then you have a discussion about whether or not you allow that baby to live. And so infanticide is also on the table here in this upcoming referendum. Now, what you guys have done with this ordinance that you have, again, it's you've banned abortion clinics 1,000 feet from any homes, schools, churches, and parks. What you wanted to do last night was you actually wanted to tighten that up because, as you've said, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, you can best tell it better than I can. But there is the concern that somebody may come up to a family planning clinic that run by Planned Parenthood, which this is where the kind of the entry point to abortion starts. And if they can't perform the abortion in Lynchburg, then they very well could just put somebody in a van and drive them somewhere else where they can.
Yes. And not only that, the Virginia Department of Health lists out their certified family planning services. Well, guess what's on there, guys? It 2 entities, both of which are Planned Parenthood. They have a couple of different organizations. My whole point in saying that was, hey, look, this is a good start, but I think we missed something. And what we heard very clear cut from city staff, from the zoning folks is, look, in Chris's scenario, yes, an entity such as Planned Parenthood could come into the city still with what we passed. They could just transport that mother to another location to perform the abortion. And actually, if you go to Planned Parenthood's website, they list out those programs where they will literally cover your transportation fees, no cost. So my analogy a few months back when I noticed this was, hey, wait a minute, we need to pump the brakes here. I want to have an abortion. I'm in high school. I'll go right across the street to from EC Glass High School, right across the street. I could walk into Planned Parenthood. They'd bus me over to Roanoke, come back, abortion's done, and I'm home before dinner. Look, I'm not trying to throw too much shade. I'm frustrated, I'll be honest. But candidly, I don't understand why there was such an objection to just removing that exemption or fixing the other issues that were found out last night. I believe there's good here, a decent foundation. We just need to button it up. And there's a common phrase of "don't let the perfect be the end, rob you of the good," or something to that effect. And I came up with something and said, "Well, that's all well and good, but that's called laziness. We need to get it right. This isn't something we can just say, pat ourselves on the back and do a rally cry. We need to make sure it's right, and it's not."
You had Stephanie Reed, who is an at-large council member. She was on board with you. She voted with you. Here is what she had to say about all this last night.
Either you care about really making this airtight or you don't. All this is doing is sending it back to planning to just consider this adjustment. They can say no. Like I said, they said no the first time. But if we're actually trying to protect our young women from every risk, nobody should be arguing this. Even them looking at this. Are you telling me that if a Planned Parenthood or someone like that pops up near our schools and they aren't doing active abortions in the clinic, but they're writing prescriptions left and right for that abortion pill, that you're all going to be like, well, we're sure glad that we kept that exemption in there. And they got in because we didn't put it in, and you're going to be like, well, it was the legal defensibility option. Really? Because the girls could just walk across the street and get it? No, you're not. You're going to be devastated because of all those babies.
Yeah. So she voted with you last night.
Spot on.
And there's, I thought that was pretty important to share that out. It looks like, she was on board with you and wanted to tighten this down while you have the opportunity to do it. Whereas the rest of the council just seemed happy that they have this ordinance in place.
They seem happy to have it in place, but I sent you a link. If you want to use it, you can. But on my website, I put together a list of here's just 5 or 6 addresses in the city and how close they are to churches and schools. Well, guess what? Planned Parenthood, they want to come in and buy that property, lease it out, one of which is empty and has been empty for a number of years right across the street from EC Glass. They can still come in, lease out that property, and do the exact same thing that Stephanie and myself were talking about last night. And I put it out on my website so people can see it for themselves. Here's the address. Here's where they can go, right across the street.
You've got Thomas Road Baptist Church, you got EC Glass, you got Dunbar Middle School, all of these areas that they could still go to.
Yeah, and so I am frustrated. I wish council saw it differently and was willing to at least hear the debate, and they weren't. And we'll have to figure out another way to button it up, whether it's later this year or after the election. We'll find out. But there's a lot of politics to play with this that you could go all sorts of different directions with. I think it was the wrong vote. Any common sense Republican, conservative, pro-life voter sees that exemption and says, hey, that's got to go. It's pretty
1 in 3 children born in Virginia was killed in an abortion in 2024. We had nearly 40,000 abortions in 2024, looking at these numbers here that I have. Mm-hmm. And so it's not like Virginia is rare. It's not a rare thing in Virginia to have it. And I know that in the northern part of the state, in Northern Virginia, where, we've always seen growth in school divisions. At one point, I think the schools were opening for 20 years or so, the schools in Northern Virginia were opening 2 new schools a year just to keep up with pace with the growing student population. But now we're seeing that those numbers decline. We're seeing more seniors graduating from high school than we are kindergartners enrolling into the school divisions. And so
maybe because we're not having enough babies.
Yeah. And we're killing the ones that we are having here.
Exactly. You're spot on.
You obviously, you push for this, and the other thing I told you, I texted you, is, and it wasn't all that long ago when some of the cities, again, in the northern part of the state, had conservative representation and used essentially what you are doing in Lynchburg and restricting where these abortion clinics can be located. But as Democrats have taken over, they quietly, and I really mean quietly, have removed what's called a conditional use permit, a CUP. Yep. And look, these are the things that gas stations need to have. These are the things that fast food restaurants have to go and apply for. If you want to make a McDonald's, but you want to have a drive-through for McDonald's, these cities and jurisdictions, they charge an application fee for that company, that business, to apply to the city or county to get a conditional use permit that must be approved by the city council or the board of county supervisors. This is no different than what a McDonald's has to do to have. And yet some of these cities are removing these permits and allowing these abortion clinics to come in. And I know in the case of Manassas, Virginia, where they quietly removed them, as soon as they did, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris came to Manassas in January in 2024 and kicked off their presidential campaign. Now, I'm not saying that is directly correlated, but man, the timing was just spot on. It's just a coinky dink, maybe. I don't know.
What we're seeing really, and I think you're right, what this paints a broader picture of, you can insert any item, any agenda, any part of the platform. What you're seeing is the importance of local government. And I'll scream this till my deathbed. If all you're paying attention to is what Speaker Johnson, and as important of all the Epstein files and what's going on in Iran, all that stuff matters. It matters. But if you're not paying attention to your local government, especially in Virginia, you're missing the point, because what you're seeing in Lynchburg is a bit of a rallying cry against what you're seeing. Northern Virginia is changing left and right, as you pointed out. Meanwhile, we're saying we're going to put a conditional use permit process on an abortion clinic. We're going to put in a conditional use permit on family planning services. That was my attempt. That's what I was trying to say last night, and that failed. We're going to stand up for your rights. Second Amendment. We're going to stand up for the fact that we support the rule of law. We're going to cooperate with law enforcement. Those are very just common sense approaches that I think the general politic, the general makeup of the Lynchburg and Virginia voter generally understand, and it's pretty straightforward. Your local government matters, and I hope they're doing similar things, maybe not with so much of the headlines that the Republicans get in Lynchburg, but long story short, if they're doing the things to fight back against what Richmond is trying to do, that's the fight. That's where we need to be. You had mentioned the conditional use process, and candidly, back when this first came up, I said, why are we limiting this to just abortions? I think we should have a higher insight into all outpatient surgical clinics across the board. I want to know how close your operation clinic is going to be operating on people, so close to a school, so close to a church. Are those things that we should be considering? If we're talking about mutilating children to change their gender before they're an adult, I think that should be something that is having a little more oversight. These local governments matter. This isn't just an abortion issue. This is a medical practice about where these are going in our cities, and that matters. We shouldn't just try to slap the politically charged term of abortion on it and let the chips fall where they may. That's really what happened in Lynchburg, and we're trying to fix it. This is a much broader conversation than just one particular issue.
Yeah. And of course it comes, as you said, we're staring down this abortion making abortion constitutional in Virginia, and what Democrats in Richmond are doing. I'm going to play a clip from Marty. If I screw up his name, let me know. Marty Misjuns. He is the guy, the council at large, who brought this resolution forward back in February. And here's what he had to say last night.
We can't regulate the use of somebody else's land outside the city. If somebody comes in here and sets up and then they take somebody else outside of the city to have a procedure, we can't do anything about that. There's nothing we can do about that. But you know what we can do? we can keep what we already have intact that started before the legislature, before the state legislature voted to send for the second time their abortion constitutional amendment to the voters on the referendum. That's one of the reasons why this is so critical, because our legislative history on this ordinance begins before that second reconvening of the legislature. And what are they trying to do? They're trying to make it a constitutional right to murder full-term infants at the moment of birth. Some even say after they're born. That's what the Democrats in Richmond are trying to do. That's what the voters are going to decide in November. And what we did was we got proactive and we got ahead of that and said, you know what? We're going to make it really, really hard for them to even think about doing it here.
When you're out in the city and you're talking to people, you have, I mean, obviously, again, as I said at the top here, Lynchburg, very conservative place, very conservative city. It is unique from Virginia. Have you seen people try to come in and break that conservatism, try to insert, just kind of come in? And I know I was watching another one of your meetings yesterday prior to the one you had last night, and there was a lady, she said she was from the Young Democrats, and she said that, you guys really enraged her and you guys shouldn't be talking like the way you're talking or whatever. And she demanded apologies from certain council members and took them to task. And I mean, are you seeing more of this as we get closer to this referendum, or are you seeing more people saying, you know what, we don't want this rampant abortion. We don't want our voice, our congressional voice taken away from us. We don't want what Spanberger is selling. I mean, what's the mood in Lynchburg right now?
I think the mood in Lynchburg is, it all boils down to there's a desire for common sense leadership that when they say something good, it's followed up with good policy. See, this is where my colleague last night sounds perfect. Everything he said is spot on until you get to the fact that what we found out yesterday is the ordinance he championed really didn't solve the problem that he was trying to solve. See, that's the disconnect, is you have to have leaders who are saying, okay, you're spot on, I agree with you, let's fix this, let's fix the loophole here and move forward. That's what I believe Virginians need and desperately want. Is they don't want just more political bombs thrown left and right. They want real leadership who come up with pragmatic solutions that get the job done and then just go away. Don't get into my life one way or the other. Make it simple and move on. But as an example, Lynchburg is a bit of a funky city. You have a lot of old school Southern Democrats who probably vote conservatively on the budgetary matters, and maybe some social issues they lean more left. There's a lot of that still left over in Lynchburg, and it makes Lynchburg an interesting city to campaign to. And so it really requires, I believe, a certain type of approach that is that forces you to be a little more level-headed and a little more pragmatic on your conservative values, as opposed to just, I'm just going to throw bombs on this and see what sticks. As an example, Lynchburg will go, by 2 points for a Democrat on one election. For example, Lynchburg, well, I won't say Lynchburg went for Biden. They probably went against Trump in 2020. A lot of question marks in that election. Don't need to go down that path. But the point is, so they go barely for Biden, but in the same election, they go like +4. The same ballot, they go +4 for a Ben Klein conservative. That type of narrative. Lynchburg has a certain style of leadership that they want, and they'll go head over heels for a Glenn Youngkin style, 56, 57%. But a Corey Stewart style is a little more bombastic. It's no, the Tim Kaine will win that. So it's an interesting city, and you've got a lot of different needs and a lot of different problems that require just good leadership. That's what I'm trying to say to the question is, folks just want leadership. They want it in Congress. They want it in the White House. They want it in the governor's mansion. They want it in their local city. That's
So
what
what's
they
next
want.
for you on all this? Where does this go from here? I know there was a talk about maybe bringing this back in 6 months by the end of the year, but I'm not. Where are we on this? Do you think this will come back?
I'm still processing everything from last night. It was a long meeting. I think for my purposes, I've made my point of there are holes here that need to be addressed.
Yeah.
And there's a number of things happening this year for local elections in Lynchburg that will inform us on which path makes most sense. I'll just be frank. I don't have the votes right now to fix the problems. And,
Mhm.
I'll be, as Marty pointed out, I'll be beating a dead horse if I just bring it up again. They'll just shoot it down and, raise hell over it all over again. We'll see what happens in the Firehouse primary coming up here locally for city council, and then in November. And I have every intent of trying to fix it. It's just
Yeah.
when is the timing best?
Yeah. Yeah. And interesting. Well, I'm going to put this comment up on the screen here, and we'll give you a chance to sell your city. Where I'm at in Roanoke is a blue hell. I hate it. So there you go. What are you going to say to that?
Bless your heart.
Come to Lynchburg.
Come to
that's
Lynchburg. Come to Lynchburg. No, so I think very briefly, we are sandwiched between Roanoke and Charlottesville. Roanoke, I think, just passed like a $400-something million budget. We had our first review of our first reading of the budget last night, and our operating budget is in the 250 range. What we do with our money, with your money, is far more impactful than what Roanoke or Charlottesville is doing, or anything, or Blacksburg. You're seeing an investment in public safety that Democrats neglected. You're seeing an investment in infrastructure that Democrats neglected for 25 years in Lynchburg. Lynchburg adopted $60 million of infrastructure money for schools, and other localities all they're doing is just jacking up tax rates. Lynchburg's got a lot of stuff going on, and I don't want to belabor the point, but on public safety, law and order, tax rates, you name it, Lynchburg is leading the way. Don't buy into all the news coverage of how quote unquote dysfunctional the council is. We've got some issues, but on policy, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Yeah, I've covered Republican councils. I've covered Democrat councils. I mean, it's very rarely you're going to get everyone on that dais to agree with each other.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, you guys are showing that you guys care about the future of our state, your community, our nation as a whole, by protecting the unborn, the indefensible, who cannot protect themselves. And you guys certainly are doing that. Before we wrap up here, if there's anybody listening who says, you know what, I don't even know if my county or my city or my town has something similar to this, maybe I should go down and, speak at Citizens Time. Maybe I should go down to the town council meeting and be heard about this. I mean, let's get people involved here. Let's connect people with our community. What's your best advice to them who may want something similar that you have this ordinance in Lynchburg? Maybe they want something similar in their town.
My recommendation is to, first and foremost, just be a part of the process. Have a relationship with your local representatives, so that way when you're seeing an interview like this, a conversation like this, it's not an out of the blue ask for someone you don't even know. And I'll tell you, if you're willing to build those relationships with your local leaders and use them to the benefit of your city, of your locality, you can move mountains. There was a threat to close an elementary school in my district, and I partnered with a lot of people who they sure as hell did not, probably still won't vote for me. But when you build that community and work those relationships to a common goal about what can be done, you can move mountains. That school's still open, by the way. And we were able to do that. Get involved, know your people. I represent 4 precincts out of 18 in the city of Lynchburg. If you live in my part of town, you probably know where to get a hold of me, and you know where to meet me. You know where we can go grab coffee. So just start doing that. Be involved. Follow the agendas. Know what's on your on mind for your local bodies, and don't just focus on DC. There's a lot more going on in your locality that I guarantee you had no clue.
Yeah. And guys like Chris need you to come and speak up for your community. We need you here at Virginia Insider. We need you to comment here. Tell us where you are. Tell us how you're in the fight. That's the whole point of this channel is to give you the news and information you need to take back your Commonwealth from the Democrats in Richmond who think you don't have any say, who certainly don't want you to have any say or any power over the decisions shaping Virginia, your home state, and certainly don't want you involved. And so this is where we're giving you the information you need. Chris Faraldi, Lynchburg City Council, thanks for coming on and hanging out with us today.
Happy to do it. Would love to do it again. And if I could help any of your listeners in any issues that they're talking about, hey, what have you tried on this? Go to my website, go to votelynchburg.com. It forwards you to my website because some folks don't know how to spell Faraldi, but that's okay. And I'd love to connect with you.
A lot of people don't know how to spell Uriah. Trust me, I've been all kinds of Mariah Carey and some bodily functions and fluids and all kinds of crap. So we won't go there, but Chris Faraldi, good patriot from Lynchburg. Thanks for coming on the pod today.
Thank you very much. God bless everybody.
All right, there he is. Chris Faraldi. He's Lynchburg City Councilman coming on and talking to us. And they fought the good fight last night on getting this. But the good news is that they still have that ordinance in place there to really control where these abortions are happening. And of course, there's a lot of discussion there in Planned Parenthood, which is the entry point to get in to these abortions. We're not going to candy coat it or call anything else. It's what it is. It's abortion. All right, folks. So I'm following all in the comments. Good to hear from everybody. What's up, G-Man? Good to see you again. Midway Farms, what's going on with the investigation in Fairfax County cheating? I'm going to look into that because we did a video about that, and I've been monitoring that. I've got to look into see what's happening with that. We've not heard anything else into that again. Make DC square again. Yep, we're going to see what's going to happen there. I mean, that would be a game changer. Of course, it wouldn't be enough to offset the Democrats because you still have Fairfax County. I mean, just if you give Arlington and Alexandria back, I mean, Arlington's got a population of about 250,000 people. Forget Alexandria's population, but you still have to solve for Fairfax County. You still have to solve for Loudoun County. And speaking of Loudoun County, we're going to get into the latest out of Loudoun County, where you saw Freedom High School. We did a video on this yesterday, where a transgender student is said to have photographed young girls, videotaped girls in the stalls of bathrooms at Freedom High School in Loudoun County. This is a continuation of the same type of thing that we have seen from Loudoun County going back to 2021, where a student was raped, a girl was raped by a transgender student in Loudoun County. And that student was transferred to another high school within the county and committed another crime, assaulted someone else, another student. The father of the original victim, the rape victim, went to the school board to complain, to protest, to be heard during citizens' time, which is kind of what you do. That's what the boards and commissions that run our state here in Virginia tell you to do. They go participate in the process, be heard. And what did the Loudoun County School Board do? They arrested him, took him to jail. They made it clear they do not want to hear from him. And they made it clear they do not want to hear from you if you disagree with them. They don't like you. Matter of fact, they hate you because you don't share the same thoughts, feelings, ideas about progressivism that they do. And so they want to silence you. And they did for that man. They arrested him. So we're going to get into that. You're going to pull up this right here. Share this here. This is going to be from Fox News. Virginia School District is facing outrage after reports transgender Loudoun County student was secretly filming and photographing classmates under bathroom stalls over the past several years. Here's that video.
A Virginia school district is reeling again From a bathroom controversy, and parents are once again furious over this. Loudoun County, a student there accused of secretly videotaping and photographing more than 40 students under bathroom stalls for 3 years. Sources tell a local media outlet the student is a biological male who identifies as a female, but still uses the boys' bathroom. The sheriff's office is now investigating this. Madeline Rivera has the story. Madeline.
Good morning, Harris. A spokesperson from Loudoun County Public Schools this morning is dismissing some of the reports that are out there. We had asked him about allegations that there were more than 40 victims and that the school knew about the situation for longer than they were letting on. Spokesperson Dan Adams tells us some of the reporting is misleading and inaccurate. At the same time, though, the principal of Freedom High School says a preliminary review shows this was not an isolated incident. The Loudoun County Sheriff's Office say they are investigating allegations of unlawful filming at the school involving juveniles. Sources told Fox 5 DC the student under investigation is a biological male who identifies as female. But Loudoun County Public Schools says there are no reports that students involved in these incidents were in a restroom inconsistent with their biological sex. And because of that, Adams says the controversy regarding their policies allowing transgender students to use bathrooms that match their gender identity does not apply. Still, there are some parents who are concerned the school isn't doing enough to protect their kids, and their frustrations bubbled up at a school board meeting on Tuesday night.
There are students that do not feel safe, welcomed, or treated with dignity and respect. School bathrooms and locker rooms have signs outside that read girls or boys, but with 80-40 in place, as long as it's in place, we know that anyone can go in those bathrooms. There are girls and boys every single day that are afraid to enter and have their privacy compromised.
The school says there could be disciplinary consequences depending on the results of the investigation.
All right. So you see that right there. That's the parents again, like they're still lining up in Loudoun County, which is one of the wokest school boards in the world. This is the place that propelled Glenn Youngkin to victory. When you take a look back at the 2020 election and you look at Glenn Youngkin's rise to fame, it was because of what happened with the transgender student there and the fact that they arrested the father, and I have his name here. I'm going to pull that up here. This going back here are the details on that. Back on May 28th of 2021, a male student, then 14, later identified as Hunter Heckel. This was the transgender kid, sexually assaulted a girl in the girls' bathroom in a handicap stall. All right. So then the victim's father, Scott Smith, was later arrested because he went to the school board to apologize, to not apologize, pardon me, to protest, to be heard, because his daughter was raped at school where she should have been protected. And what did the Loudoun County School Board do? They arrested him, took him out in handcuffs. We won't tolerate that kind of talk around here, Mr. Smith. Sheriff, take him away. And that's what happened. Then, in October of that year, the same student raped another female student at a school. This time it happened at Broad Run High School in Loudoun County. The student was found guilty on charges including sex assault, sodomy, all in juvenile court. He was sentenced to residential treatment, probation until they turned 18. Listed him on the sex offender registration. Eventually, he was released from probation in 2024 when he turned 18. Now, fast forward to 2024 and then 2025, in Loudoun County, you have a biological girl identifying as a male use the boys' locker room, that 80-20 policy you heard in that video I just played. It's that 80-20 policy that allows them to, hey, today I feel like I identify as a boy, so I'm going to use the boys' room. Tomorrow I may identify as a girl, so I'm going to use the girls' room. And whichever the gender they identify as is the one they get to use. Like, it corresponds to their bathroom choice. Bathroom choice. Did you guys have bathroom choices when you were coming up? So we had a girl in the boys' locker room, and they said, the boys were like, hey, listen, why do we have a girl in the boys' locker room? We don't really appreciate that. We don't feel comfortable with that. Can we do something about that? Can we, I don't know, coach. What can we do? The school board suspended the boys. They said, no, you can't talk bad. You can't talk bad about the transgender student. That transgender student is a protected class. You cannot talk about that. So they suspended the boys because they didn't want a girl in the locker room with them. They weren't being protected. Now we have this case in May, 40 plus victims. We just learned about this week, this breaking story we just learned about. 40 victims, transgender student under the bathroom stall, videotaping, photographing girls in the bathrooms. This has been going on for more than 3 years in the school. 3 years. Sheriff's Office investigating unlawful filming. No public charges or arrest detailed as of yesterday. They described it as an active developing investigation. So you can see this is not an isolated incident in Loudoun County. This is an ongoing thing where they protect criminals and they do not protect children. They leave the children vulnerable to what you just heard described there. So we're watching this one. But yeah, this is what Glenn Youngkin ran into office on. This is what propelled him into office. Parents wanted accountability. Parents didn't want to be hauled to jail if they come to a school board meeting for relief. When they issue their grievance, they want to be heard. They want change. They want accountability. They want their kids to be protected in the place they legally have to send them every day. Loudoun County refuses to do that. That much is clear. They refuse to protect the children. On top of closing school for the better part of 2 years, Virginia, you'll remember back in 2020, was one of the first, actually was the first state to shutter all school buildings because of the COOF. Parents were told, yeah, your child's learning. Just stare at the screen all day. Listen to the teacher talk. And a lot of parents out there who had IEPs for their kids and specialized learning plans that really didn't learn a darn thing. I remember in spring of 2020, I was run a local news website in Virginia, and I had several students say, hey, listen, can we intern? We're not doing anything. I mean, our teachers are technically giving us work. We're technically supposed to be doing something, but I don't know. We're not really doing anything. So can we do you have anything for us to do? And I took on that year at least 10 interns in the spring, and I worked with them every day remotely because everything was remote. And I was at the time, I was a father of a newborn, first kid. It was an interesting time in our life, trust me. And if it weren't for our newborn, if it wasn't for my baby girl, it would have been a very sad time in our lives. We're very grateful that she came along in February of 2020 when she did, because we got to not only spend so much time with her, but it changed our lives for the better altogether. I mean, I could do a whole show on that. And it's interesting. We started, talking about the power of life and preserving life on the top of the live stream today. And I can go on and talk about that. But yeah. And then, Youngkin, I actually heard him on Sean Hannity about a month ago. And he says that Republicans should get back to wanting accountability in schools, wanting better public schools, wanting these SOL scores that it just seems like every year in a lot of these jurisdictions we cover, they don't ever get better. These standards of learning tests that go on every year, they really rarely improve. There are some improvements. I'm not going to say they all suck, but for a lot of the urban jurisdictions that we cover, they tend not to improve. They tend to go down. But yet the spending, the money, which is paid for by homeowners who pay the property taxes to fund the county, to fund the city, those always seem to go up. So what do you think about this? Do you think that this is going to be a way for Republicans to take back Virginia, get the parents back on board, convince them that with things like this, what we're seeing in Loudoun County is not the way? Maybe you agree with Glenn Youngkin. I don't know.
A Virginia school district is reeling again.
That's that video we showed there. All right, get some breaking news here. Let me share this. This is Nick Minock right here. Again, Nick Minock broke the Loudoun County story, but now he's breaking this news right here. Abigail Spanberger, this is kind of set this story up here. They want collective bargaining for state employees. They want collective bargaining for just about everybody in Virginia. And back in 2020, when Democrats took over the legislature, it was not 2019, but in 2020, when they really started to pass bills and get their things going, they allowed for collective bargaining again in Virginia. And there had been a ban on collective bargaining since the 70s. And now that it's back in a limited fashion, the supermajority of Democrats in Richmond pushed forward a bill to expand collective bargaining broadly. And Hamburger, it's been on her desk. I think she had some amendments to it, but like all other bills that she amended, the General Assembly said, "Yeah, you're not running things here. We're in charge here. We're the majority Democrats in the legislature. We're in charge here. So thanks, but no thanks to your amendments." And they promptly sent them right back, and they wanted their collective bargaining bill to pass as it is. And so since then, we've been seeing different localities, different mayors, all Democrats coming out and saying, "Hey, pass the collective bargaining bill. The unions really want it. Pass the collective bargaining bill. We need to raise taxes. We need to pay more. We need to muddy the waters when it comes to how much we pay local and state employees." We've seen calls across the board for Abigail Spanberger to sign this bill. Well, Minock here reporting that Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger plans to veto Democrats' collective bargaining bill for public employees. Senate Majority Leader Scott Surville told me. Now, Scott Surville, the same guy who wanted to push a casino on Fairfax County, the voters there said, "No, you know what? We don't really need the casino. We're doing okay. We're probably the wealthiest county in Virginia. We don't really need gambling. Thank you, Senator Surville, but no thank you." And what Senator Surville did was he wrote a bill that says, "You know what? You're going to vote on it. We're going to hold a referendum." This is what Democrats do. They hold a vote. And when they say, "Well, at least we let you vote on it," does this sound familiar? We took a vote. You should listen to the will of the people, because the will of the people spoke, and we took a vote on it. He pushed the bill that would require Fairfax County to vote on a casino, whether or not they wanted it. And Spanberger vetoed that bill. And boy, did that really tick off Scott Surville in the Senate, because he issued a statement after that. And he said, "Listen, we're going to build this casino some way, some form, whether you like it or not. Why? Because we have union support. The union is driving this casino in Fairfax County, and they're also driving this collective bargaining that we're seeing here. Look, let me clue you in on Prince William County, second largest jurisdiction in Virginia, which second largest school division in Virginia. And it was the first school division to get a collective bargaining agreement between the teachers union and the school board. And once they opened up Pandora's box, every school board meeting became about, well, how much more can you pay us? Well, we need more money. We need to be paid this. We're not getting our right pay there. And during every school board meeting, they edged out parents, students, members of the community who want to talk about education, about learning, about enrichment, about community. They were all edged out from union members who just want to gripe about pay. And that, as soon as they opened Pandora's box there with collective bargaining, that's all it became about. And to this day, anytime you pull up one of their meetings or attend one of their meetings, during public comment time, you're going to hear about how much they're not getting. So looks like Manak is saying here that Spanberger is not going to sign that bill. There's going to be a lot of pissed off Democrats across the state about this. Frankly, this is something she's got to do. I mean, because she's not running the state. I mean, if you know, because you've watched Virginia Insider and you've been following along pretty closely, that there was some talk from Representative Hakeem Jeffries in New York to come down to Virginia, kick out, essentially fire all the members of the state Supreme Court, replace them with their cronies, who would then rehear the illegal gerrymander case and then approve the gerrymander and then implement their maps, and then they can get their congressional seats for the midterms. It's some banana republic stuff right there. But you heard that. New York Times reported that, and we did that video on it. So you've been following along. You know that is what's going on there. But Abigail Spanberger wasn't even briefed on that plan. Abigail Spanberger has been doing ribbon cuttings and photo ops and signing a few bills. She's been around signing. There's a gun bill that she signed that we'll get into here in a minute. She's doing all that while everyone else, Louise Lucas, Scott Sorovel, Don Scott, Speaker of the House, they're working with guys like Hakeem Jeffries in New York to fire our state Supreme Court that did nothing but uphold the law. You know, just because you took a vote on something doesn't mean that you get it passed. That's kind of like mob rule. That's what that is. Yeah, you can vote. You know, I did a little analogy. It was a guy that a good friend of mine actually didn't Democrats, they don't understand. Well, if you vote for something, then it should happen, right? Okay, well, you go to work and you say, you know what, Joe, a couple of us got together, you know, we got to talking. We don't really like the fact that you come in, you microwave fish for lunch. Yeah, it stinks up the place. So what we took a vote and we decided that we're going to demote you and then move your desk 4 floors down. So go ahead, get your stuff. We voted you out. And Joe's like, well, wait a minute. There's nothing in the employee handbook that allows you to do that. You can't just you just vote me out, demote me and vote me and move me to the next floor. There's nothing that allows you to do that. We have rules here in this place. And the guy's like, nope, sorry. Majority rules, bud. We took a vote. Pack your stuff. Get out of here. And then the guy's like, I'm not leaving. I'm not doing it. But Democrats don't understand that. They don't get the rule of law. They love mob rule. If you take a vote and you continually hear the people voted, you hear, what's his name? Gruesome Newsom out in California. Look at him. We took a vote and they're ignoring the will of the people. Well, that's because the legislators ignored the law to let this illegal gerrymander go through in the first place. So to my point, and before I got sidetracked here, Spanberger, who's not running the state, needs to do something, and it looks like she is. She's going to hit back and veto this bill. It's going to piss off a lot of Democrats. A lot of liberal tears incoming tonight on this one. Here's a video that Minock did back in February, talking about what all this would mean, and has Prince William County. I mentioned Prince William County earlier. This is their school board chair saying, a Democrat saying this would not be a good idea for Virginia.
Virginia lawmakers are moving legislation forward that would expand collective bargaining for all public sector employees. AFSCME is backing the bill. The major public employee union says strong collective bargaining laws help states reduce staff vacancies and turnover, improve public services, and decrease racial and gender wage disparities. Several mayors and cities have already come out against this proposed legislation on expanding collective bargaining. Some say they prefer local control. Others say their cities cannot afford it. And new tonight, here in Prince William County, home to one of the largest school districts in Virginia, the school board chairman says this bill is a bad idea.
This new bill wants to mandate collective bargaining. If this bill passes, it will be the single largest tax increase in Virginia history, because all of the responsibility for these payments and salaries will be on the localities, local taxpayers.
The Democratic school board chairman explains the current bill wouldn't give counties and cities any state funds to pay for collective bargaining agreements.
Adding more burden to localities and then not funding it is a bad idea.
Lateef wants to see all lawmakers and the governor focus on making life affordable for everyday Virginians.
If your number one goal of being elected was to do something about affordability, this goes in the exact opposite direction. And you will be putting a burden on the Virginia taxpayer like we've never seen before.
Prince William County Public Schools already has collective bargaining for teachers, and Prince William has some of the highest paid teachers in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Well, if this bill moves forward and is signed into law by Governor Abigail Spanberger and right to work isn't repealed, you would still be able to choose if you wanted to join the union or not. Reporting in Prince William County, Nick Minock, 7 News.
And that's the important thing too. You talk about join the union, and if you, just going back to the school board meetings and how this whole collective bargaining union issue sucks the air out of the room. All the talk is forcing people into the union, right? How can we get them to join? How can we hold these elections during school hours? It becomes this all-consuming process about getting more people to become union members, sign the bargaining agreement, agree to join the union, essentially. And the conversation turns away from education, for improving scores, for hiring competent teachers, for implementing programs that work for students, for kids. It's interesting how we see all of that kind of talk go out the window when it becomes all about money and all about the union. So we'll see what happens here with this collective bargaining bill. A lot of Democrats won't be happy about that one bit. All right. Just kind of going through the X feed here, just updating you here. Do you guys have, let me know in the chat there, do you guys have collective bargaining where you are? Are you part of a union? Do you want to be part of a union? Is this something that you would rather not have, but you have to do through work? Or how does that work? Obviously, Virginia is a right to work state. Democrats would rather it not be, but Virginia still is a right to work state. Let me know in the comments. Want to see from you. Want to hear from you. Did see another. Just kind of a recap of what we're following here. All right. So the governor Queen Affordability, as I like to call her, decided that you should not have that responsible gun owners should not be able to carry guns on school property at colleges, where we've had in Virginia just this year a shooting rampage at ODU, Old Dominion University. Just a few years ago, we had a shooting rampage on UVA where multiple people were killed. And the Democrats' answer is always, we'll ban the guns. I mean, gosh, that would solve all the problems, right? Because if you ban the guns, then the criminals couldn't get the gun and no one would have guns, and then we wouldn't have a problem, right? That's always their answer. So Spanberger yesterday signed a new bill that puts guns out of reach for responsible gun owners who want to carry them to protect themselves, carry them to be that good guy that takes out the bad guy with the gun. Spanberger made sure that that's no longer legal to do in Virginia. I'll pull this up here. This is from WVIR. Let me see here.
Lawmakers and UVA leadership stood together with one message. The 2022 UVA shooting cannot happen again. Now, new legislation signed by Governor Abigail Spanberger is aimed at strengthening safety on campus.
They would take a meaningful step forward.
With the stroke of a pen, a bill years in the making was signed into law. The legislation stems directly from the 2022 shooting that killed 3 UVA football players.
We know that what happened on grounds in November 2022, it fractured that safety, that feeling, not just for the community members here, but for people across the Commonwealth.
The bill, carried by Virginia State Senator Cree Deeds and Delegate Katrina Carlson, gives colleges more ability to share information about potentially dangerous behavior between campus police, counselors, and university leadership.
We can't undo the past.
All right, so there's the video there from WVIR TV, and then Queen Affordability stripping away more of your God-given rights to carry guns, to protect yourself, to protect your family, to protect your loved ones. Queen Affordability, they're stripping those rights away on top of the other bills that have gone through the General Assembly this year. And we're still waiting on whether or not she will sign those bills or just let them become law. It's looking more like she's going to let them become law. These, of course, are banning any gun with a magazine of 15 rounds or higher and not allowing you to carry any gun, even if it's locked up in a case with you back and forth to a range or transported anywhere. You can no longer legally do that in Virginia. And you can no longer pass down your firearms to your family. They're no longer family heirlooms. They become property of the state once you die. You no longer can pass them down. It is a major gun grab, one of the worst, if not the worst in the U.S., and will likely be challenged as soon as it becomes law. I mean, it's headed right to the Supreme Court. You heard Harmeet Dillon, in Washington, D.C., wanting to challenge this. They're ready to go. More of your rights stripped away. It looks like this article is paywalled, so. Just kind of going down through the list here. There was an article about Louise Lucas. I'm going to search for that. So bear with me here while I search for that. That article. Give me the latest article on Louise Lucas, written by I believe it's the Norfolk Hampton Roads newspaper, Virginian Pilot. All right. All right, so this is the latest update that I've seen on Louise Lucas. And you remember Louise Lucas last week, she was raided. She had her pot shop raided. She had her office raided. And she's been largely silent on social media ever since this has happened. She's one of the most prolific tweeters. Always, again, she's the one that said 10 effing 1. We will unseat all the Republicans. We will make sure that they no longer have a place in Virginia. And how'd that work out for you? I think not very well. I think you got the court handed your butt to you when it comes to your illegal gerrymander. But there she is, Louise Lucas. And then there are some lingering questions in the wake of the FBI raid of Senator Lucas' Portsmouth office and CBD shop. It was a pot shop because she's a drug dealer. She deals drugs. She's also owner of the Lucas Lodge, and this is a place that brings in adults, care for adults, a lot of Medicare going on there. So a lot of people speculating that this whole thing, this FBI raid, could be Medicare related. Of course, the investigation we know now started under Joe Biden. This is not something that just came up recently after the referendum went through or didn't go through. If the vote happened, but the Supreme Court said, no, it was an illegal gerrymander, so it won't be going through. A day after a swarm of FBI agents raided his downtown Norfolk CBD store, Carlton Upton Jr. stood in federal court to face an indictment on 3 felony counts of wire fraud. The raid notably happened the same time federal agents executed search warrants on the office and businesses of State Senator Louise Lucas, including the cannabis outlet in Portsmouth. It remains unclear whether the Wednesday raid on Upton's CBD shop on Granby Street is connected to the raid on Lucas's business across the river, but the cannabis outlet in Portsmouth and the CBD shop in Norfolk have operated under the parent company of VA Freedom Life, according to the state city business records. VA Freedom Life is registered in Upton's name with the CBD shop address. Upton's federal indictment alleges he received more than $100,000 in pandemic-era business relief funds from loan applications with false information about his criminal record and reported business income. One of the loans received in 2020 was to a business the indictment refers to as Virginia Freedom Life. Virginia Freedom Life has ties to Lucas and Upton. When VA Freedom Life obtained the Portsmouth Certificate of Occupancy in 2021, Lucas was the applicant, and the company was listed as doing business as the cannabis outlet on High Street. I love that. Cannabis outlet on High Street. It doesn't get any better than that. You can't make this stuff up. Lucas listed herself as the owner and CEO of Virginia Freedom Life in 2022 and 23, and reported income from the company according to financial disclosure form she's required to submit as an elected official. And that's important, folks. If you want to know who is getting money, who's paying your mayor, who's paying your city councilman, who's paying your board of supervisors, you can FOIA these, Freedom of Information Act. These are open documents, and these elected officials are supposed to, by law, fill these out each year because they need to identify what's basically what's the phrase I'm looking for? Conflicts of interest. They need to put those out there. They need to identify who's paying them, where they get their money from, because it's easy to sway these people left and right as to where they're going to vote. And if you don't believe me, ask anybody who's approved a data center in the past 10 years. Tell me the union lobby and the data center lobby does not work overtime to sway these politicians right and left. And it's more than data centers. It's anybody with a vested interest that wants to locate a business or an organization and to curry favor with these politicians. So that's why these forms are important. Now, after his initial appearance in court Thursday, Upton declined to comment about past or current relationships with any politician without consulting his attorney. When asked about any connection between his case and the raid on Lucas's business, Upton said, "I'm just a pawn. I don't know nothing. I know nothing. I know nothing. Don't know nothing. All you need to do is interview Lucas," he told the Virginian pilot and at the Norfolk Federal Courthouse. FBI agents executed multiple court-authorized federal search warrants Wednesday, according to a spokesperson. The scope of the investigation or its goal is unclear. Upton was arrested April 27th in Atlanta. He is out on bond, waiting arraignment later this month. No charges have been filed against Lucas. She has not responded to requests for comment, though she issued a statement characterizing the raid as political retribution from the Trump administration. Even though this all started under Joe Biden, it's always easier to blame the orange man in the White House, isn't it? Lucas, who's 82, is a powerful member of the state Senate and chair of the Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee, who led the charge on Democrats' redistricting efforts. 82 years old, been in power since 1992, so more than 30 years. But the Democrats want to fire the state Supreme Court because they're over age 73. But Lucas here, she gets to keep her job at 82. Raided by the FBI. Multiple questions about her business dealings, her political dealings. I mean, you saw a video I played for you earlier on the channel when back in 2020, the summer of love, as you'll remember it, Lucas sent protesters to a statue, a Confederate statue in Portsmouth, told they were going to paint this statue, destroy it. And she told police, "You can't arrest these kids. I'm telling you, you can't do it. You can't arrest them. They're above the law because I'm Louise Lucas." We showed you that video back on our channel, WAVY, Wavy TV, channel 10 in Portsmouth had that story. That was very important to show because it gives you a sense of who Lucas really is. She's drunk on power. She's been around, again, 30 years. She is always such a joy to, they call her America's grandmother. I don't remember my grandmother constantly dropping the F-bomb or getting raided by the FBI for that matter, but that's just me. So we'll see what happens in Lucas's case. I'll be watching. But isn't it so interesting? All of this comes down. And she said that Trump started it, she was going to finish it. That she was going to put an end to all this. My. Just checking the report here to see if there's anything else I want to go over with you. Ranked choice voting is ridiculous. I'm not going to pick a friend. I'm not going to pick, for me, it's not a popularity contest. When I go and vote, it's because I've researched the candidate. I went to their website, I pulled it up on my phone, I read their policy positions, I've heard them speak, I watched their YouTube video, I'm plugged in to my community. I have a general sense of where they stand on the issues that I feel like are important to me and my family. And I go, whether it's on election day or voting early, but now with this whole voting early doesn't count in Virginia anymore, only election day counts now, according to the Democrats. I go to the ballot box and I cast my vote for the candidate who best represents me and my family, who I think will do the right thing. I don't then pick a second who is my second favorite, and then somebody who else, and then a third who might be cool, but really is not the best, and a fourth who, okay, if I really want him, if I have to put him in our, then I guess I can let him in. But that's not democracy. That's not the way our republic was envisioned. That's not the way we should be carrying out elections in Virginia at all. But the Democrats love ranked choice voting, and they are doing their best to spread the dark gospel of ranked choice voting across the state here. This article from Fairfax County. Town Hall explores whether Fairfax County should adopt ranked choice voting. Should Fairfax switch to ranked choice for Board of Supervisors races? Views were mixed during a community forum held last Monday in Reston. Even Hunter Mill District Supervisor Walter Alcorn, who could be directly impacted, there's that word again, impacted. Did an asteroid hit the planet? Did it impact us? Maybe affected. Maybe Alcorn would be affected by this. A voting format change. Did he need to learn more about any potential impacts? Oh, there it is again. There it is again, the impacts. I would be happy to learn more. I think Hunter Mill District district residents would want to learn more. Alcorn convened a town hall discussion on the topic on May 11th. About 50 people showed up. Many already support switching from Fairfax's current winner-take-all election format to a more nuanced ranked choice voting format, also known as instant runoff, also known as easier to cheat, easier to flub up, easier to have someone else decide who you voted for. Since 2020, the General Assembly has given local governing bodies the option of switching to that format in races for supervisor, city council, and now town council. All other races from school board to Congress are not eligible. The format switch is beginning to gain traction in several Virginia localities, albeit with bumps along the way. Arlington has run its county board general elections under ranked choice for the past 2 years, and he's used the format for Democrat county board primaries for 3 years. Charlottesville held its city council election using ranked choice. If you want to do your primary with this, you guys be my guest. It's your party, your house, your rules. You need to figure out who you're going to run for what Democrat you want to run, what Republican. Look, I don't like to see it in Republican firehouse primaries. Again, ranked choice, horrible way to go about deciding who wins, because it's always inevitably someone else who's deciding who wins. It's the collective of the whole, when it really, you're one vote to one person, one vote. It's your voice. Democrats always argue that, well, voting is the most important thing ever, period, the end. And when you do this ranked choice, you take away, you dilute that vote, giving somebody else the opportunity to come in and use a second preferred candidate, third preferred candidate, turns it right into a popularity contest. So look, I don't want to see Republicans using this. I'd rather not participate in a conservative primary that uses this ridiculous ranked choice. Democrats want to do it all day long. That's fine. Let them do it. Let them experiment and play around and be happy in their sandbox on their primaries. It's their house, their rules. Let them do it. The goal of ranked choice option is to identify the candidate that has support from majority of voters, said Liz White, executive director of the voting advocacy education group Upvote Virginia. White joined Arlington elections director Gretchen Reinmeyer in providing a tutorial at the 90-minute town hall. In ranked choice, voters are able, but not required, to rank candidates in order of preference. If a candidate receives more than 50% of the vote in the first round, that candidate is declared the winner. I don't know what's my computer or their website that is really just jerking around, but it is not cool. Not cool at all. All right. If no candidate receives 50%, the candidate with the fewest votes is eliminated, and votes for the candidate are redistributed to others on the ballot as directed by the eliminated candidate's voters. The process repeats until a candidate emerges with majority of the votes cast. Reinmeyer said that when the switch was first implemented in Arlington, the voters let us know the full range of emotions, because that's the most important thing when it comes to elections, is knowing how you feel about them. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense. That's the power you have to tell people how you feel. But it's been a learning curve, she said, of the public awareness, because Democrats want to make voting hard, and it shouldn't be. Democrats want to make voting a drawn-out process, and it shouldn't be. And then Democrats turn around and say, hey, when we started early voting 45 days ago, it really wasn't the election you were participating in. You were just casting a vote. You were just kind of doing a thing. And the only thing that really matters now, yeah, I know we've been Democrats pushing for 45 days of early voting. I know that we talk about my democracy all the time and how Donald Trump is trying to take away our votes at every turn. And I know, and I certainly wouldn't want to do the same to you as a Democrat and take away your vote. But if you didn't vote on election day, if you voted early, then you're really not participating in the election. Folks, that's what they said on April 27th in the Supreme Court of Virginia when they argued for their illegal gerrymander. The same folks that have said for years, we have to vote early. We have to open up the polls, open up participation in elections, get people voting, drop boxes, early ballots, you name it, for 45 days, longer than anywhere else in the U.S. They want to make voting susceptible to cheating, to fraud. And by this, make it hard, make it difficult, so people don't exactly understand what's going on. Oh, no, it can't be just let me go and fill in my ballot and put it in a box and then it be counted. Oh, no, that's too easy. You got to bubble in your best friend and then his mom. And then maybe if they were nice to you, maybe the babysitter too. Maybe they'd be a cool candidate too. Just go ahead and just pick your friends, and then we'll decide. We'll take a look at who you chose, and we'll decide who we like, and we're going to rank higher, lower, and then eventually kick them out when we decide that they don't have enough votes. But it's a process. It's a learning curve. But don't worry. It all makes sense. Just trust us. We're the government. We're the Democrats. You can trust us. Don't worry. A survey of Arlington voters immediately after the November 2025 election shows 66% of respondents supported the ranked choice format. 26% opposed it, and the rest were undecided. Earlier surveys of county voters reported more mixed results. Arlington County board members have mixed feelings as well. Though they have made the format switch permanent for Democratic primaries, its use for general elections remains a pilot program. At least half of the attendees I'm still here. Trust me. I'm still here. I'm still here trying to get through this article. It keeps jumping all over the place. Good Lord. At least half of the attendees at the May 12th event were backers of Upvote Virginia, so a majority of speakers were in favor of considering a change. Imagine that. They packed the room full of their own people. However, there were some dissenting voices, resulting in an animated discussion of the pros and cons of the format switch. You're not presenting us with any evidence to back up the claims that the change would be beneficial, one attendee told White. Now, why wouldn't we do that? We would just pack the room full of our supporters who want this. And if you don't look, ranked choice voting, guys, it's a good thing. And if you don't believe me, ask me and I'll tell you it's a good thing. Trust us, right? Others supported a format change, but predicted it was unlikely to happen because the county's elected leaders might feel their power being threatened. White said the benefits of moving to the format can include more diverse field of candidates and more civil campaigning. That's what that's about. Well, a diverse field of candidates, all diversity, guys. Diversity. Diversity is their strength, is it not? That's what they tell you all the time. Diverse field of candidates. She points to some elections, particularly primaries, where a candidate needed just 25% of the vote to win. If you're one of the 75% who didn't like that candidate, you aren't represented at all. Under the state authorizing legislation, county supervisors would have exclusive power to change the election format for their general elections, primaries, or both. No public referendum is required. How about that? The supermajority of Democrats have allowed the localities to change how you vote, and they don't even need to ask you. Don't even need to do that. It's kind of like what they did with the meals tax. So if you don't already live in a county or city in Virginia that has a meals tax, which is a additional tax on top of a sales tax, they charge you when you buy anything in a restaurant, whether it's McDonald's or a white tablecloth restaurant. It used to be if a city or county was going to institute a new meals tax, they had to go and do a referendum and ask the voters, ask the people of the county or city of the jurisdiction, hey, do you want this? Do you want to pay more? Because, you know, here's what and they also had to justify what they're going to do with the money. Yeah, well, with all this money that we're going to be making off this new meals tax, here's what we're going to do with it. We're going to put it to schools. We're going to build new roads. We're going to, you know, whatever it is they're going to do. We're going to improve the water system, whatever it is. But the convenient Democrats in Richmond make it so you no longer have to do that at all. Don't need to ask permission. Don't need to justify the ask. Tell people where the money's going to go. Shoot, don't even have to tell them how much money you're going to get off of this. It's the government's money, right? They'll do with it as they please. Well, now, same thing here. No public referendum is required. It would be an all or nothing decision with all 10 supervisors' seats using one format or the other. The next election for all county supervisors is in November of 2027. Whether a format change is made for that election or subsequent ones, a massive effort to explain the change to the public would be needed because they're trying to make voting hard. Voter education is really important. We would certainly need to go to great lengths to educate on how to vote, on how to put a piece of paper in a box, bubble in your favorite candidate. Because Democrats like to make things more difficult than they need to be in the name of diversity, in the name of equity. or whatever else they're talking about this week. Spicer, who attended Alcorn's May 11th town hall, said he could envision some logistical problems in making a format switch, but it's up to the Board of Supervisors to determine whether or not to move forward. We never take a position on anything, Spicer said of his office's role. That's not our place. If the supervisors decide to make the change, we'll do whatever it takes to make it work. In Arlington, or at least one of the 5 county board seats is on the ballot every year, the format switch has not yet had a substantial impact in the 2-year general elections in which it was used. The Democratic candidates for the county board won 58% of the vote in the 4-way race in 2024, 65% in the 2025 5-way race. It has had a more significant implications in the Democratic primaries, in which it has been used for the past 3 years. In Arlington, as in most of Fairfax County, Democrats hold strong political advantages, making winning the party primary the key hurdle for candidates seeking office. So there you go. Democrats trying to make voting hard. And this is, of course, Arlington, where 66% of the Virginia voters in 2020, a 2/3 majority of voters in 2020 approved the Independent Redistricting Commission and said, you know what, Democrats, you've been pushing for this independent redistricting thing for a long time. And 2/3 of the voters in 2020 in Virginia said, you know what, Democrats, you're right. We're going to take the power to draw the congressional maps and the maps for the General Assembly, the state legislature, out of politicians' hands. And we're going to put it in the power of the people. And we're going to create an independent redistricting commission. And therefore, the people can draw the maps. And every jurisdiction in Virginia supported it. Every jurisdiction said, yes, that's a good idea. Every jurisdiction except Arlington. Because Democrats in Arlington like to make voting hard. All right, scan the list here. Again, we're on Facebook, facebook.com, Virginia Insider. Give us a like over there. We're trying to grow that page so we can start putting video out there and being one of the places that we try to spread our message to and get our videos on Facebook. Be great to do that. Of course, if you're on X, you can like us on x.com/Virginia Insider. Thanks to all of your support on growing this channel. You guys have been just fantastic about helping us grow the channel. I'm going to look at the channel here. We've got more than 15,000 subscribers on our channel right now. Back on March 1st of this year, 2026, we had 500 subscribers. And now, today, May 13th, 2026, just a little over 2 months, we've grown it to 15,000 subscribers. I didn't think, I didn't know exactly how this was going to work, how this was going to grow, if people would resonate, if the message that we were giving out here on this channel, if it resonated with Virginia residents. All I can say is thank you for your continued support, for watching our videos, for liking our videos, for sharing our videos, for commenting on our videos, for supporting us on social media to help us get that message out, where we're, again, giving you the information you need to take back your Commonwealth and to connect with your community, to know that you're not alone, to know that though the Democrats want to make you feel alone and outnumbered and that you don't matter and that your ideas are just old and antiquated and stupid and that, population is going to grow and we're going to outnumber you guys. So, and they always tell us the demographics, the demographic story. It's, oh yes, you have got to, you just got to sit down and shut up because the demographics were such where the Democrats are taking over. Folks, if you look at some of the numbers, and maybe I'll pull those up for a future video, but a lot of these blue states that were back in 2018, D plus 80%, D plus 60%, D plus 20%, these numbers are going down. Democrats are losing market share, as it were, in voting. And only red states are getting redder. Blue states are losing Democrat voters. Not to mention all of the redistricting that we've seen happen through legal channels, legal processes in other states outside Virginia. You heard Hakeem Jeffries from New York, Representative Hakeem Jeffries, said maximum warfare everywhere all the time. And then as soon as the illegal gerrymander passed, squeaked by 3 points, said, look what we just did in Virginia. Now, Florida, don't you try anything because you'll be sorry. Don't you do anything because we'll come down there and we'll make you feel sorry for what you did. It was back at that point, the Democrats were really riding high, thinking that they were going to sweep in to the midterms. Now the whole scenario was flipped. Republicans look like they have just a great shot at winning the midterms. And it comes as a year. I mean, generally the party in power, the Republicans, lose seats during the midterms. And of course, anything could happen. But these redistricting, these battles that we're seeing, the redistricting wars, are really going to have an effect on not just this upcoming November election, but also elections down the road. And then when 2030 comes around, when we have the census, you're going to see the reapportionment. You're going to see just how many seats these blue states are going to lose because they've lost population. And there's not a darn thing they're going to be able to do about it. Red states are gaining. Conservatives are rising. And together on this channel here on Virginia Insider, we're coming together and we're sharing that message. And I certainly appreciate you being along for the ride. Please tell a friend, share the video, like the video. Let's get the message out there and keep talking about the wins that we will inevitably continue to have here in Virginia and beyond. Thank you guys for all the comments. Please, it's nice to hear that, but thank you. It's really, you guys are in the fight. You guys are in there. So going back through the comments here and just want to see where everybody's watching from. If you've not already, drop in the chat where you're watching from. I want to see. I'm getting a lot of comments from Bedford. Hello to our friends in Bedford County. I was actually looking at some video of the town of Bedford today, and I know at some point I want to go down and visit the D-Day Memorial in Bedford, but it looks like a pretty neat downtown as well. So drop in the chat where you're watching from. Love to see that. I know we had check-in from Middle Peninsula earlier here on the stream. Had someone watching from Fauquier County. Sent a comment from an hour ago. Yeah, Enterprise D, it's behind me. Open up there. I'm kind of renovating the place a little bit. It's not exactly what I want, but yeah, no, Enterprise D. I think in a future video, in a future live stream, I'm going to set a goal, super chat goal, and then I'll show you a piece of my Star Trek collection. I'm a big Trekkie. I'm a big Star Trek nerd. And would be very happy to go through and show you pieces of my collection. We get that going here. All right. There we go. Roanoke. Hello, Roanoke. Thanks for being on the chat today. Here we go. Chesterfield, Scott County, Fairfax County, Bedford. Hey, Bedford. Watching from Norfolk. Great to have you great to have you guys. Great to have you guys on the chat. Warren County. Hey, Warren County. Very cool to see. Hanover. I think we're going down to King's Dominion this weekend. Be fun to get back there. Haven't been this season, so it'd be fun to get back into Hanover County. Really, really like it in Hanover. Beautiful, beautiful place. Ashland's a great place to hang. They got a great statue of the, I believe was it Secretariat in Ashland? Really cool statue. We need more public art, period. I don't care if it's a mural. I don't care if it's a statue. And then, if you put statues up, they'll just tear them down. Maybe, probably. Who am I kidding? But we need to beautify our spaces. We need more public art. We need to remind each other why Virginia is so great. We're the cradle of presidents. We are the seat of the birthplace of America, and we should celebrate that. We should see more of our founding fathers. We should see more of our history. I was having a conversation with some business owners in Manassas, and they were telling me, we have this battlefield here, and there used to be reenactors that used to come to the town of Manassas, the city of Manassas now, and they would dress up in their Civil War attire, and they would bring their Civil War era muskets, and they would camp actually on the museum in downtown Manassas, and they would talk about how they used to camp out on the lawn there, and it would bring like 1 million people into town for Civil War weekend. And then in 2017, right after what we know now is to be the Southern Poverty Law Center's fake Nazi rally in Charlottesville, the Unite the Right, which was all put on and all fake now from the Southern Poverty Law Center. Because of that, the city of Manassas stopped their Civil War weekend back in 2017, and they've never held it again since. And today, if they want to have any, and this is now today, the Democrats are in charge in that town. And if they want to do anything like that, they're allowed to have Civil War reenactors, but they have to be wearing civilian clothes, like the stuff that the soldiers, I guess, wore when they weren't dressed up in their uniform. And they can't have any Civil War era guns, because guns bad, military bad. And the Democrats won't let them do it. And people have stopped coming to Manassas because even though it was once known for its Civil War history, they used to have cannons around the downtown. And people would come to see just these old relics that were prominently on display. And of course, the Democrats, who now run the place, took the cannons and put them in the woods somewhere where you can't see them. Oh, yeah, we've got them. Oh, no, they're just, you have to use Google Maps to go locate them on this drop pinpoint over here in the woods. And then if you know how to get over across the bridge over the way there, you can go see them. And the business owners are in town. They're saying, hey, listen, we need foot traffic to come to our shops and support our businesses so we can afford to eat and live. We need to do something. We need to tap into, a thing. We need to brand ourselves as a destination. And the Democrats say, well, of course, we're a restaurant town. We have a lot of restaurants. And so does every other town in America. Whether it's a white tablecloth restaurant, a mom and pop shop, or a McDonald's, they're pretty common. What other towns don't, they're not, most of them, Many of them are here in Virginia because it's very hard to throw a stone and not hit something that's involved with the Civil War here in our great state. But most towns across the United States, they don't have that. They don't have the history. They don't have the Civil War. And I remember when I was much younger and I was a server at one of these restaurants in that area, a place called the City Tavern. And what people would tell me when I was waiting on their table, they would say, hey, you know, we're from California and we come out here because we want to see the battlefields. We want to see the old houses. We want to learn about the Civil War, the engagements that happened right here, the history of our great country. We don't have these things out in California. That's why we come back east to experience it. There's very little red brick where we're from. That's why we come and vacation on the East Coast to see this history. But Democrats feel better if they just take that all away. They think they're protecting the community. They think they're making others feel safer by banning the history, by erasing the history, by removing the history, locking it away, and by extension, the shops and businesses that rely on the travelers, the tourists, for their livelihoods, they don't show up. They don't come. I mean, have you walked down Monument Avenue lately? What is there to see? Monument Avenue in Richmond, my gosh, was one of the most beautiful, reflective places I can recall. I used to walk through there at night, the lights shining on these statues, and just think to myself, it is so amazing that we live in a country that tore each other apart, that ripped itself apart. It fought a bloody battle, more than 600,000. And in 1864, 1865, that was the population of the United States was not nearly what it is today. 600,000 dead. That's a huge margin. And despite all of that, despite all the differences and the bloody war, this nation managed to come together again, to reconcile and put all of that behind it and move forward as a United States of America. And there was no place better to get that sense than right here in Virginia, where it all started. The capital of the Confederacy, a place that wanted to honor its past and embrace its future. A place where all stories of America could be told in Virginia. And now those statues are gone. And now you have people who live on Monument Avenue, some of them back in 2020, who were arguing for the fact, let's join the mob, the crazy mob, and tear down the statues. Let's do that. That sounds fun right now in the moment. And now they're saying, well, wait a minute, Mayor Stoney, LeVar Stoney, are you going to replace them with anything? But we said we didn't want them, but maybe you're not going to give us anything to replace them with. And the Democrats in Richmond say, no. Monument Avenue, pretty well off there in terms of residents who live in the city, in terms of what they make. So yeah, now you guys are good. At least we got those racist statues out here, though. We need to remember our history. We need to celebrate our past. We need to look ahead because we have a bright future ahead of us. But we need to come together as Virginians and keep telling our story. Keep telling people why we're right, why conservatism is the answer, is the way forward, why how capitalism has pulled more people out of poverty than socialism ever has. And we need to support our small business owners. We need to support the mom and pop shops, the people who are sponsoring the Little League teams, that are creating jobs in our towns in Virginia. And yeah, it's great to have the big box stores and the chain restaurants. It's great. It's great, especially for smaller places where others may not be able to do as well. But for those who have the mom and pop shops, the small businesses, pick one weekend out of the month and go visit them. Pop in there, stay high, get a bottle of pop, whatever it is, because they do so much for our communities and they always need our support. So please, I will never stop advocating for our Virginia main streets, our communities, and the people who make them the unique, special places that they are. All right, going to go through the chats here. I know you guys were dropping in. Sure. Okay, I see Stafford there. Salem. Hey, Salem. So appreciate everybody watching. Guys, this is something that I want to continue to do, at least on a weekly basis. I enjoy doing these live streams. I enjoy coming in and hanging out with you guys. It is an honor to be able to connect with you and to share the news with you and to bring on guests to talk to you about what's going on. If you checked out our podcast recently, I've had Congressman Rob Whitman on the podcast. I've had, we did sit down with we did one about the abortion amendment coming up. So do check out our podcast. It's on our YouTube page at youtube.com at Virginia Insider, on our podcast. You can check out for that, as well as the videos. And I do try to post 1 or 2 videos a day. So I'll be cutting this one up here in a second and taking some key elements out of this video, out of this stream, and reposting this as a standalone video. But this has been great. Do you guys have any, a couple minutes left here before we top out at 2 hours? Any questions for me? Anything I can help you answer? Anything you get questions about content coming up, stories we're working on, anything like that? Yep. The birthplace of presidents, cradle of presidents. I believe there's 8 presidents from Virginia. I would assume it depends on the school division if they're still teaching that. One has to wonder if it's President's Day or as some woke school divisions may call it, Oppressors Day. We have to check on, especially our friends in Loudoun County, to see how they're teaching it. Our resident woke school division in Loudoun. Check on that for you. Yeah, we'll keep looking into the Fairfax County, 35,000 votes. It's such an oddity to see just randomly 35,000 votes come in at the last minute on the gerrymander. So I'll be poking around, look for more on that. Obviously, we will be watching what happens here in the Supreme Court with the 2-Bullet J. Jones and his appeal to, I think it's the Supreme Court. I think that's what he meant, of course, because he put Virginia Supreme Court on his appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. But we can only assume, given that he can't spell Virginia or the word senator, that that's what he meant. So we'll be following that as well. Data centers are always a big thing. We've got a lot of data centers coming up, and by extension, the Valley Link project that is going to come up from Campbell County up to Spotsylvania County through Culpeper County. So we'll be watching that one. Keeping you in the loop. And of course, conversations like we had on this stream today with local officials, that abortion amendment that's coming up, we've got to get mobilized on that. We've got to fight that. We've got to be aware. Nearly 40,000 babies were murdered in Virginia in 2024. That's like 1 in 3. And the sheer fact we're having fewer babies now, and school populations continue to decline now across the state, and we're finally starting to see it happen in more than just Fairfax or Prince William. It's actually happening in various jurisdictions, especially in Northern Virginia, where these jurisdictions have grown for years. People are coming to terms with the fact that their numbers are declining. And on top of that, we want to codify into our sacred Virginia Constitution that we are going to have third trimester abortions and infanticide in some cases. It's not what we want to see. That's not the Virginia that's not the Virginia we are. That's not the nation that we are. We value life, and we need to do our duty to educate our neighbors that this referendum's coming up in November. So I'll be posting that video, that interview we had on this stream earlier with Chris Faraldi of the Lynchburg City Council. So we'll be doing all that. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for your continued support. Please like this video, subscribe, and we will see you on the next one.